Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Addison Peacock. She is an incredibly talented voice actor and stage actor, as well as a writer whose work has been published in places such as Slash Film, Fandom, and Dread Central. Welcome to the show, Addison!
Hi!
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you here because, you interact with people on Twitter and it's like, okay, this is great, but I want to talk to you. And so that's...
I also do have to say that I've been, I think I told you this on Twitter, but I used to listen to the No Sleep podcast religiously, and you were my favorite person. And so when you followed me on Twitter, I almost had a heart attack. And now that I know you, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, it's so cool. But yeah, so that's a creepy thing about me to you.
Not creepy. It's so nice. Thank you.
So that anecdote aside, how did you get into horror?
Oh, God. That's such a good question. I've been into horror I've been into horror forever. Not movies, though. Movies took me a while. I grew up reading, like, Goosebumps and grew up on just R.L. Stine's whole oeuvre. My mom raised me on a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. So I grew up hearing, like... Telltale Heart and like The Raven and The Black Cat was a favorite of mine. I would check out like these like compendiums of R.L. Stine, I love him, but of Edgar Allan Poe from the school library and read through them. I was very gothic literature child. I was a creepy kid.
Fuck yeah.
And I loved a lot of compilations of like ghost stories, like the like unsolved mysteries, like local ghost story type books. I tore through all of those. I loved the scary stories to tell in the dark books. But it took me a lot longer to get into any kind of horror films. I actually, like the first horror movie I tried to watch was Poltergeist, and I like started just like scream crying. I was so upset psychically by Carol Ann inside the TV trying to get back to her family that I like forced my parents to turn it off, and I was like just very upset about it.
Do you know how old you were at the time?
I was probably 10. Yeah. And I was just like, I just like fucking lost my shit. It wasn't like scared per se. I was upset about it. It gave me psychic damage. Oh my God. But in general, I've been a creepy kid forever.
Incredible. And so once you started getting into horror movies, what were some of your favorites?
Oh man. I think the first proper horror movie I actually watched and enjoyed was The Shining.
Wow. Wow.
How old were you, do you think?
Jinx.
I was in middle school.
Middle school? Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We talked about The Shining before on the podcast. I'm not a fan, but I remember. I think I was probably in the same age group. Mary Beth shaking your head at me, listeners, because, well, as she should.
a rare point of contention between the two of us is your opinion on The Shining. I saw it in middle school too, and so much of that went over my fucking head. It was like, what is happening? Again, like the guy, the bear guy in the bear suit giving a blowjob to the other guy, that haunted me forever. So besides the movie that we're talking about today, Addison, were there other films that really fucked you up besides Poltergeist?
Ooh, okay, great question. Thinking about, Ghostbusters too.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
The slime freaked me the fuck out. Like the slime coming out of the faucets. I have very few childhood memories of Ghostbusters 2 aside from that. The first Ghostbusters was fine. I was not scared of it. The second one, I was very scared of it. Stuff in bathrooms really freaked me out. I think it's because when I was little, like 8 years old, I thought that my the bathroom by my classroom was haunted. Because like a bunch of girls started a rumor that like Bloody Mary haunted that bathroom. And
wait, you had a rumor like that too? Where you
did you have
We had a rumor that like this one bathroom by my second grade classroom was fucking haunted, and I could never go in it by myself because I was totally scared I was going to get fucked up by a ghost.
Yes.
That's a weird shared experience. I would love that though. I thought I was the only one that had some weird, cool bathroom trauma.
I know that this isn't what you mean by getting fucked up by the ghost, but like I was just imagining a ghost like pinning you to the wall and saying, "Give me your lunch money," because, you know, bullying at school. That's what I was imagining when you said that.
It's ghosts. No. It's just ghosts. Were there any other films besides Ghostbusters 2 that really got under your skin?
It's a kid's movie, and I love it a lot as an adult, and I loved it as a kid too. But I was very scared of "Don't Look Under the Bed," the decom.
Okay. Decoms.
It's the boogeyman when they pulled it from circulation after like a year of it being on the air because it was too scary.
Really?
Like Disney stopped airing it. You can find it on Disney Plus now, but they stopped airing it for years. They wouldn't air it because parents complained.
Wow.
Oh, I'm seeing like little screenshots of it with this guy with fucked up contacts and
yeah, it's
teeth.
about like the boogeyman. And, like, a girl teaming up with her little brother's imaginary friend to, like, get rid of the boogeyman after he starts, like, doing shit and they're, like, pulling pranks and shit in their town and framing her. It's a great movie. It's a great kids horror movie. But there's a few, like, pieces of imagery of the boogeyman with, like, the fucked up eyes and, like, the long nails and stuff that really spooked me.
That looks more intense than what I would expect from a decom.
It really is.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I know that you said you got into like horror movies a little later in your childhood, but were you a scared kid watching movies or reading books and stuff, or were you dealing with them pretty well?
Oh, I would get very scared.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed them enough. That I dealt with it anyway.
Yeah.
I love that. And so you talk about books though. Like what book really scared you? Was like there one book that kind of like stuck with you after you read it?
Yes. It was the first Goosebumps book. It was Welcome to Dead House. I read it too young. And I don't know if you've read Welcome to Dead House or like how into Goosebumps you guys are.
Oh, I love Goosebumps.
So Welcome to Dead House, it's the first Goosebumps book, and it was sort of before R.L. Stine kind of ironed out his middle grade style, and he had first been writing for like a YA audience. So Welcome to Dead House, as opposed to like the other Goosebumps books, has, in my opinion, this much darker, kind of bleaker tone. A lot of the later Goosebumps books, they get really silly. It's like egg monsters from Mars, monster blood, which still freaked me out, but it's like slime that makes things grow giant, you know? The first Welcome to Dead House is literally like very grounded story. Family moves into a house. Their neighbors are all dead.
Yeah.
They died during like a fog that came over the town, an inexplicable fog that rolled over the town years ago and left all of them dead and sort of as these zombie type creatures that have to feed on blood to survive. And they fake this house being inherited to like lure new families into their town, and then they kill them. And I remember getting to like the point where they were like all encroaching on the house and they're like, "Let us in, we're dead." And I was like 7 and I could not fucking handle it. I stopped.
Side note, and this, I'm sorry, Addison, this won't mean anything to you, but this book was read to us in class, in my 5th grade class, by the same teacher.
Fuck?
By the same
Hilarious.
teacher, Mary Beth, that would later say, "What do men's balls have?" Do you remember from like our episode on Carrie?
I do in fact remember.
Our 5th grade teacher was teaching us sex ed, and this is the same teacher that introduced me to Goosebumps.
Balls and Goosebumps.
Balls and Goosebumps.
Ew.
Sums up my life.
No. God, we got to move on. We got to change the subject.
So, Addison, as an adult, do you get scared watching horror movies?
You know, honestly, I keep being like, good question, like I'm like on Larry King or something, but I'm like, I'm not, I don't know what that is, but I do. It really depends on the movie. I love being scared, so mostly if something is like creepy scary, I just kind of am delighted by it. Like a good example is I like make people watch like the first Conjuring movie with me because I think it's very good. Feelings about the Warrens aside, I'll put that on my back burner. I think it's a good movie. I love James Wan. It's a good movie. And there's a lot of great little like creepy haunted housey things in it. There's like the music box and the hide and clap. And every time I watch it with someone who's never seen it, I like uncontrollably like creepy little girl giggle when creepy shit's about to happen because I love that stuff.
Oh, I love that.
But I'm very susceptible to jump scares.
Fair enough.
So I'm not like easily scared anymore, but I am extremely easily startled.
That's a good way to put it, because I definitely am like easily startled. Like jump scares always, like even if I know it's coming, I'm like, I still jump. I don't know. It's just who I am as a person. I'm like a nervous like little dog that's always shaking.
Yes. But I'm very easily startled. And it's much worse when I am doing something like, I'm desensitized enough to movies, but video games, horror video games really get me.
Oh, yeah.
And I love, but I'm very easily gotten to by haunts.
Oh, okay.
I love going to haunted mazes and stuff. I went to the LA Haunted Hayride with my roommate, and we went through their haunted mazes as well, and they were great, by the way. But I warned her ahead of time. I was like, I'm gonna scream a lot. And she's like, okay. And it was true. I'm a very easy target for haunt actors. They like can tell pretty fast I'm an easy mark, and then they'll like target me. And I love it. It's fun, but I'm also screaming a lot. It's like a lot of screaming and laughing and screaming and laughing and screaming.
It's amazing.
Sounds like
that
a
sounds like a
quintessential
fun
horror
time.
experience.
Yes. Basically, I'm still easily scared and startled, but I like it a lot more now.
Oh yeah. Going back, okay, you said you horror video games scare you. Do you play them still?
I do.
Have you played any recently that you really like?
Yes. I can plug something here really quick. Actually, I just did, what I hope becomes a series. I just did a piece for fandom where I played, Resident Evil Village, and I listed every time I screamed out loud while playing it.
That's incredible.
It's called Scream Counter. I'm trying to like get a series going.
Hell yeah.
That's so cool.
Because I'm very easily jump scared, and so many people told me, they were like, oh, Village is like the least scary Resident Evil game they've had in a while. You probably won't scream that much. And I was like, okay, we'll see.
You know me. The first half of it, I think, is like the Jesus. Like that one is like traditionally the first half to me is like pretty scary.
Yeah.
But again, I'm also easily
And then I haven't played it yet, but I just got Biohazard in like the Steam sale.
Biohazard.
Which I've been told is scarier.
I don't think there's a lot of jump scares in that one from what I remember, but it's
That's fair.
a really good game.
I like Resident Evil a lot. I'm very new to the franchise, but I'm a big fan. But I do love it. I also just like unlocked in the middle of talking about like old memories and things. I just unlocked a memory of being in, I think, high school when the Slender Man game came out, and this before it was really available widely. You had to like go to the sketchy website and download it.
Oh yeah.
And I played it with my best friend in like my room with all the lights off on my laptop, and we were just shrieking, just screaming.
Hell yeah.
I don't handle jump scares well. I would get very, very tense. I get very, very stressed, but I love it, and I seek it out anyway.
So when you're like
because I'm sick,
lost in the woods trying to find paper, like journal pages or something, right? Okay.
It's like you're in the woods, and then there's like this like kind of state park like bathroom complex set with like all the tile and the like winding halls, and that's a very scary one to get jump scared in.
I hate that part.
That set is the scariest part. The woods aren't as scary as the like bathroom set.
You have to turn all those corners. You never know what's gonna be in the
exactly. It's the shit that got me when I was a kid and I watched The Shining, all those shots of Danny riding his bike around the halls.
What movies have you seen recently, like in the past couple of years, that have really scared the shit out of you?
That really scared me. Have you seen, and I have to make sure I say the right one and not the one that I didn't like, not Terrifier the Clown movie.
Drink, listeners.
But Terrified.
Everyone
Drink,
take a
listeners.
shot. It's our favorite game is who's going to say Terrified, because everyone says Terrified for good fucking reason.
It's so scary.
It is
so
so
scary.
scary, but it's just so funny whenever, like, Terry and I always, like, we'd laugh now and say everyone take a shot when someone says Terrified. And again, not a bad
Happy
thing.
to.
It's an incredible movie. It's just
I'll
funny.
drink to that. It's
Oh god, that movie scared the shit out of me.
us too.
Yeah.
And a lot of guests.
That one scared the shit out of me. And then actually, Host scared the shit
The
out of
host
me.
scared the shit out of me, too.
Me too.
I watched it alone in my room at like 3:00 in the morning, and I watched the whole last like 10 minutes through my fingers.
It's
You should,
intense.
watch, you should watch Caveat. Have you seen Caveat, Addison?
I have not seen Caveat.
There was a scare at one point that I screamed, and I don't usually scream. So
Oh, very good.
it's on
That'll get me good then.
Shudder.
Okay, I have Shudder. I love Shudder.
I,
Big fan of Shudder.
yeah, I highly recommend.
I think those are like that's like the two that have really scared me. I tend to like seek out movies that are like kind of fun horror, like at least the last like year or two I have, because of the, everything. I seek out
world.
stuff that's a little bit more on the like horror comedy or like kind of campy, silly, like teens in peril side. But I love a teens in peril movie. That's a whole thing.
What are your favorite, like, I guess your favorite subgenre of horror? Is it the kind of horror comedy?
I love horror comedy. I love teens in peril horror. So like a lot of like Cabin in the Woodsy stuff, or like like any it's hard to, teens in peril movies,
Yeah.
Like slasher. Do you like slashers?
I like both.
Okay, cool.
I like slashers, and then I really like a lesser used one is Teens in Peril Supernatural. I think like a recent example that I enjoyed, even though it's like not a quote unquote great movie. I really enjoyed Truth or Dare. I thought that was a blast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's that kind of stuff. Like a bunch of teens who aren't paying attention and should know better, and they touch something supernatural and then go, Teens in Peril.
I love that.
Teens in Peril meets my other favorite subgenre in Unfriended, which is internet found footage.
Woo!
Oh boy.
Woo! Woo!
Like, I love, you and me both, we're both found footage defenders, but I love specifically internet found footage. It's my favorite kind. I love fucking Unfriended 2, The Dark Web, Host, The Den.
I was gonna say, I hope you've seen
there's-
The Den, because that's incredible.
Love The Den.
Love The Den.
Love The Den. Yes.
Cool.
Oh, so
There
good.
needs to be more of them. I'm excited for more of them. I feel like there aren't that many
Me
right
too.
now. And I know it's like a new format, but like The Den was so ahead of its time in like 2010, making a second screen
Ditto
horror.
Unfriended, honestly.
Yeah, that too. I forgot. Like, time is fake, and I'm like, Unfriended was last year. No, it wasn't. I don't know where I'm at, but
Came out in like
I
2013.
know. Like, what's going on with my brain? But okay, yes, those are incredible.
Yes. But yeah, that's some of my favorites.
Cool.
And then I like slashers a lot, but I'm always more game for a haunting or a supernatural kind of
Cool.
creature feature than I am for slasher.
Sweet. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
And so, okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about your voice acting career, because, like I said before,
yeah.
I discovered you through a podcast you were on, and like you have an incredible voice, and so I would just love to
Thank
hear
you.
like how you got into the voice acting, and like what you love so much about that kind of craft.
So I went to school for musical theater. That was what I went to undergrad for.
Hell yeah.
Fellow music theater kid.
There's a lot of crossover. This podcast is called Scarred for Life, but I don't think that's the kind of trauma you want to hear about, so I'm just going to kind of skirt around a lot of the theater school talk. But I did go to theater school. Mixed bag of an experience, but but I got to around my junior year, and I was feeling kind of creatively frustrated. I wasn't really getting a lot of opportunities in the actual program. All of the kind of creative opportunities I was having were sort of self-created. I started writing a lot in college as well, so I was like doing a lot of playwriting and like kind of staging small things with my friends and stuff. But I was feeling very kind of creatively frustrated, and I had been listening to a lot of audio drama podcasts, a lot of fiction podcasts. I was really into Welcome to Night Vale at that point, still am, but that was like the height of the obsession. I was really into a lot of other podcasts, and then I was into the No Sleep podcast, and I was like, I don't know, I have acting training. I love horror. I have friends who are sound engineers that could cut like a demo for me. So I just like reached out and was like, hey, can I submit a demo to you guys? And then I had a friend of mine who's studying sound engineering. She cut like a rough demo for me. I paid her to cut like a just super like thrown together, like I took snippets from like Reddit / our short scary stories.
Wow.
And I like just cobbled a really rough demo together, and then it worked out. I ended up voice acting there for quite some time.
That's amazing.
And it was really great because it sort of allowed me to begin being a working actor while I was still in school, and actually also feel like I could be a working actor when I was in a department that perhaps I wasn't really getting a lot of opportunities to grow as an actor outside of the classroom. I wasn't really performing much. I did 5 years of theater school because I transferred schools partway through,
God.
and I was in
so many years of theater
two
school.
shows the whole time.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, I barely got cast.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I was in 2 shows the whole time. One was I was in the ensemble, and the other was an understudy, so I didn't actually get a performance.
I'm gonna fight God.
So I was bored. So I started voice acting.
I went to school to be
sucks to suck for those professors.
Right.
Goes to show
Seriously.
them. Anyway.
I went to school with the intent of being a drama teacher, and
yeah.
I loved acting. And my freshman year of college was not getting cast in anything because I wasn't the right body type. And yeah, exactly. And so I was like, maybe this really isn't for me. And then when I had to transfer school, I was like, no, I'm not going to pursue it because this is just not for me.
I didn't know that, and now I'm very sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That was the way it was in high school too. Like I always get parts of like the bit parts, and I was so frustrated.
Right. Yeah, here's the thing though, I will say, and I have a few people who took the more traditional avenue that are thriving, and those are, and I'm very happy for all of them, and I support all of them. Most of the people that I connected with artistically in school that are still in a creative field did the same kind of thing, where they sort of learned the skills in the department, but then sort of carved their own way. And I think that's kind of how most people come out of stuff like that. If you're not a very specific type of person, you end up kind of being like, well, thank you for the experience and for the information that I learned about like myself and my artistry, and thank you for some of the skills, and now I'm gonna figure out something else.
Yep. But look, no sleep podcast. That's amazing. And
I'm super grateful for my time there. I'm not there anymore because sometimes you do a thing for a really long time and it stops feeling fun.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of figure out a new path. I'm still doing podcast stuff. I took time away from voice acting actively when I was finishing my master's, which I just finished in May.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. That shit's so fucking hard.
Yeah, so I took like a formal step away from No Sleep while doing my master's degree, and then I'm just sort of like barely putting my little toes back into VO now that I'm finished.
Cool.
So that's been good. Yeah, thank you. I've done some stuff at Dread, and I am on the Bloody Disgusting Network. I'm on the SCP Archives podcast they have over there.
Oh, yeah.
Season 4 coming soon. But yeah, and then I've just been just slowly dipping my toes back in.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you also write for sites. How did you get?
I do.
How did you get interested in writing about horror in movies?
I'll tell you what, it was around the same exact time. And it again kind of stemmed from feeling just sort of like bored and like I needed an outlet and like I needed to do stuff. Shortly after the No Sleep stuff kicked off, I just started, because of that, finding myself, especially on Twitter, in more like horror centric spaces and meeting more people who are in like the horror world. And I happened to like I got a follow on Twitter from the Horror Honeys, which is a site that does not exist anymore, but I owe a lot to, which is like a women in horror centric site, and they were opening up a new slot for somebody to cover TV. They were like, it's entry level. I have a writing background, but it's like not this kind of writing. It was like plays and like short fiction and like some sketch comedy. But I was like, I can string sentences together and I can learn. So
look, it's a skill that a lot of people don't have. It's underappreciated.
Fair enough. So I started there on a trial basis, and I got to sort of cut my teeth there. And once I sort of built up the confidence of writing on there, I did like recaps and like I did like episode recaps and trailer reactions. My big thing that I covered while I was there was the first season of Channel Zero, which is still one of my favorite shows. And then I actually did one of my first interviews I ever did was Nick and Tosca for the Horror Honeys.
That's amazing.
That's an incredible
interview. He was awesome to talk to. He was so fucking cool and nice. I'm a huge fan of his work to this day, largely because his work is great, but also because he was so nice and was so willing to chat with somebody who was like from kind of a small indie site and like didn't really have a lot of bylines. And like, I was just like, I really love your show and I've been writing about it and I really like it. Here's some of the reviews I've written. Can I talk to you about it?
Wait, you just reached out to him and asked?
I just reached out on Twitter.
Fucking love that. Like, that takes a lot of, like, that's hard, too. Like, that I, like, envy, like, and respect that. Just, like, reaching out and being like, fucking, let's just go for it. Like, that's awesome.
I will say one of the only, I shouldn't say this. Someone from my school might hear this and get mad at me, but fuck it. One of the only things I really use regularly, aside from, like, the specific, like, acting training or whatever from theater school, is I had a professor who was really emphasized like the power of asking for things, like, cause the worst that happens is they say no and you're exactly where you started. So like I internalized that really hard where it's like, why not just say, hey, can I do this thing? Cause again, worst thing, they say no and it's nothing changed. So it's like,
that's probably like one of the best things. Like you said, like the best thing you learned in theater school. Like that's something I wish really more people like, taught you in general. Like, just asking and having that confidence.
It's a really simple idea. Yeah. But it's like when someone says it to you, you're like, oh yeah, why not just say, can I do this thing?
Yeah, and like you said, the worst thing they can say is no. And like,
and then it's the same.
I love that.
Nothing's changed. So it's like the only thing that can happen, the worst thing that happens is nothing changes. The best thing that happens is they say yes. So
I'm going to internalize that one now. I need to be more like that.
I'm working on it. I still have trouble with it, but I was an enterprising 21-year-old and I was much bolder. I say that like it was a long time ago. I'm 26, but
look, the difference between 21 and 26 is a lot. Like in my brain, like I was a very different person in those 5 years.
That's fair. But yeah, I cut my teeth at the Horror Honeys, and then again, similarly, I sort of took some time, not deliberately took some time away, but like school picked up. I like had a few bylines here and there. I got to do, I interviewed Kate Siegel for the Mary Sue a long time ago, and that was wonderful. She's also so fucking lovely. She is so nice. She is so nice.
I love hearing
actually
that.
I met her because she and Mike had a cameo on a No Sleep finale. Because they liked the show. And then because I was like, oh, they'll know the show that I work for now. I can like reach out to her and I won't be a complete stranger. I was like, hello. Can I talk to you about stuff? And then I just sort of, had a few bylines here and there. And then I sort of took some time off finishing up my, not my master's, my undergrad. Holy shit, too much school. Then I went straight from undergrad to my master's program. And so for the first time, oh my God. Sorry, I'm having a lot of on-air revelations.
I love it.
The first time in my life.
It's fucking incredible. I love on-air revelations.
This is the first time in my fucking life that I haven't been in school since I started school. Like, I started school and then I went to school. I did elementary school, middle school, high school. I did college. College took me a little longer because I transferred schools halfway through. Then I went straight to my master's degree, 3-year master's degree, and now I'm here.
A 3-year master's degree?
Oh yeah.
In what?
Writing, TV, film, and theater. It's a triple.
Okay, that makes sense.
Designation. Yeah.
Okay. My master's was 9 months, and that was fucking crazy. Don't ever do that, guys. Don't ever do your master's in 9 months.
That
Yeah,
was
that
9
sounds
months.
terrifying.
Yeah, it was only 9
Jesus,
months.
Mary
Yeah,
Beth.
I did have the unique and exciting experience of doing my thesis in a lockdown, but you know,
Ooh, yay. Great.
Wow.
That's so cool, though.
easier than it could be because like your thesis when you're in like a screenwriting program is writing a movie. It's not like doing research, but you
Yeah.
know.
I know someone who had to do her thesis in the lockdown and had to be a film, and she had to completely change her thesis film because of the lockdown. I'm like, fuck
Yes,
that. That's
I
so
had
bad.
several
That's
friends.
awful.
I had friends who were like getting their MFA in directing and they had to do the same shit.
That's ridiculous. Wow. But okay, Addison, we've chatted about your horror history. We've chatted about your incredible career so far. But what movie
that's so
have
nice.
you brought with you today that scarred you for life?
Oh boy, Dead Silence.
Dead Silence, James Wan's unsung masterpiece. That's actually probably a hyperbole, but I love this movie. Anyway, for those who are unfamiliar, let's catch you up real quick. A young widower returns to his hometown to search for answers after his wife's murder, which may be linked to the ghost of a deceased ventriloquist.
I just have a...
Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, be sure you never ever scream. That's all I'm going to say about it.
That's it. The episode's done. Goodbye, everybody.
No.
Thanks for listening.
So a funny thing about this is a bit of a non-traditional, I think, episode for you guys, because I think as I mentioned to you when we were DMing about this, I did not actually see the movie in its entirety as a child. I only saw the trailer, and that was enough.
That's why I wanted to hear about
didn't
it.
see
I'm
the
very
movie till I was
curious
older.
about like the whole experience of that and like the ripple effect it
So
had.
the trailer, they showed it like, I feel like horror movie trailers shouldn't show like during the day. Because let me do some math here. I wanted to see how old was I when Dead Silence came out. I have to do a little math here. When did it came out? In 2007?
2007.
So I was 12. Okay, I was 12. And something about 12-year-old Addison that you should know is that, and this is like one of my weird like childhood things, is that I had, oh my god, it's fine. Haven't told this story in like its fullness on a podcast before.
I can't wait. We're
When
so
I was
honored.
12, I had like a not extensive but not insignificant collection of marionette puppets.
Marionette puppets?
Why?
There was this, okay, I'm from a small town in Virginia, and there's this part of my town, that's like the Old Town Mall, and it's like this, kind of cobblestoned, there's no cars on it, like cobblestone, like walking mall, like of street, like a street of like stores, and like cafes and stuff. It's very cute. It's very like small town idyllic. But, in the summers or like in the like warm weather, there'd be people out there doing like street vendory things. And one of the people that around that period of time would have stuff to display and sell in the streets, there was this person, this like woman who sold these like hand carved marionette puppets. And she would like demo them and you could buy them. This sounds so not like a real
Yeah, this sounds like the fucking beginning of a horror movie, Addison. I met
Yeah,
this
it does,
woman on the
doesn't it?
street who made hand-carved marionettes, and I bought one, and it killed me in my sleep.
So I bought several of them my mom bought for me over the course of several years. I had, which ones did I have? I'm going to think through them all. Like, I was obsessed with, like, the first one I bought was, like, a lady one with, like, a velvet red dress, with, like, lace cuffs, and she had, like, those brown ringlet, like, that doll curls, and, like, a little, like, porcelain face, and, like, little, like, apple cheeks, and I loved her, and I thought she was beautiful, and I wanted to do puppet shows and stuff. So I got the first one, and then I got... No, she was technically made like a Maid Marian doll, like marionette. That was it. Because I got her and I got the Robin Hood together.
Okay.
So I started with them and I would like play out like Robin Hood stuff and make my parents watch.
So did they come complete with
and-
like the cross on the above of the
Yes.
strings, and you'd like yeah.
Yes, full blown, like had the cross and the strings, and I wasn't very good at them, but I could like make them walk and like sort of ambulate around. And then I got, after them, I don't remember the exact order, but after them I had a witch, like a Wicked Witch of the West style witch, like green hat, knows everything. Then I had this like redhead woman who had the same like ringlet curls. And then I had like a wizard, like a fairy tale wizard. And I had a cowboy.
Boy, that is like a wild play to put on with that cast.
Yeah.
And so were they like all in your room, like watching you sleep?
Yeah, they were all hanging on like hooks on the
Fuck
wall
off.
next to my bed.
Hooks on the wall. I'm like, no. It's too much.
Well, because they're on those wooden crosses, and they hang and my mom put just hooks on the wall to stick those on so that they wouldn't and they had to be up a little bit higher so that the cat wouldn't get them.
Sorry, the cat would totally fuck with that. You're like, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to shame you as a child.
No.
Here's
in my brain, it sounds terrifying.
I was fully not kidding about being kind of a creepy kid. I told you this.
That's
I told you I was a
true.
creepy kid.
But I do have
I had my puppets.
I have a very serious question to ask, though.
Yes.
Are you alive, or are we talking to a ghost that's being puppeted by marionettes?
As far as I know, I am alive.
Are you a ghost?
I did have puppets. I had a couple very earnest collections as a child. My creepiest one was the puppets, but I did also have a trunk of Beanie Babies, and I had 5 notebooks full of stickers. So I was very much a collector as a child.
I did that. Did that shit. I had so many Beanie Babies, and
everybody had Beanie Babies and stickers. I did take it up a notch with the.
You
the
really
puppets,
did. You
but,
definitely did level up with the puppets. That is next level.
I really wish I had. When I talk about them, it feels so fake. I wish I had pictures of them.
If you did.
I bet my mom probably has photos of me with them somewhere. I'll have to ask her because I don't have any physical evidence of them existing, but I know they did because I've had conversations with my mom where I've been like, I had puppets, right?
Found footage movie of Addison as a child with her marionettes, but it's an alternate reality where the marionettes are haunted and they try to strangle you with their strings.
I mean, I think we're writing a movie now.
I know. Anyway,
honestly, I probably should just go ahead and do it.
Should.
But I really have had that. I'm not. Everyone has, I think, weird childhood, kind of half memories that you have to ask your parents, or did I dream that? Was that a real thing I did? And I did have a moment where I was like, I did have puppets. And she's like, yeah, you had puppets. Because that's important to the second part of my Dead Silence story, which is that they started airing the trailer in probably 2006. They started airing the trailer, so I was probably 11 when the trailer started airing. And I retained nothing about it except the shots of the dolls and the shot of the dummy doing the shh on the poster.
Oh, yeah.
And that was enough. I said, I didn't say this word at this point in my life, but truly I was like, fuck this. And I had a couple nights where I was having trouble sleeping because I would be sort of in and out of sleep, and I would wake up and I would see my puppets on the wall. And I would see my puppets, and I was like, oh, it's like the trailer. It's like the trailer. I was so convinced that one of their heads was going to move and look at me. I was so scared. And so I made my mom pack them all up in a box.
Oh, no.
And put them in the crawl space.
Oh, my God.
now they're pissed off at you, Addison. They're coming back for you.
And now I don't.
They're coming for you.
I don't know whatever. I'm going to be real with you both. I don't know what happened to me.
Next time you go home, they're going to be waiting for you.
Uh-huh.
They are, probably.
Probably
I need
still
to
in
know
that crawl
it.
space.
There's that crawl space, waiting quietly, silently.
My parents have moved since then, so it's entirely possible that they're in they're either in a storage unit somewhere, or they're gone and were donated to a Goodwill and they're haunting a Goodwill
Or
somewhere.
they were left in the crawl space and the next people found it and they were murdered.
For whoever moves into that house, whoever moved into that house.
Dead Silence 2! Guys, Dead Silence 2!
Dead Silence 2! They move into the house and all my haunted ass puppets are there.
Can you just imagine though if you're moving into a house and you're going into the crawl space and there's this box and it's just full of marionettes? I would be like, I'm out.
And be like, I'm out of here.
Deuces.
That's the thing, right? That would be so creepy.
Well, I love that you were a marionette collector as a child.
I really
multiple
liked
years.
my scary. I really did. Yes, I had a robust collection. Again, not a ton, not a ton of them, but enough that for a child, it's a lot of marionettes.
That's a lot.
So did you?
I had 6 of them.
Did you have your friends play with them with you?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Did you put on plays and stuff?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that, though. I mean, like, it's creepy, like a little bit creepy, but it's also really cute. Like, I think it's kind of cool that you gotta play, like, I played with Bratz dolls, and like that's its own kind of horrifying, weird shit. Like,
I had dolls and stuff too, but I was very into the marionettes because I think, like, I liked that there was like a skill involved.
Yeah.
I was trying to like learn how to make them move well.
When you can kind of see where you got your creative spark and, going to school for theater and stuff, you're playing marionettes and staging plays.
I'm an only child too, so like a lot of what I did as a kid was like forcing my parents to watch me put on little shows.
I love that.
So, because I had no siblings to bother, so I would do that kind of shit a lot. They indulged me way too much. They let me just force them to watch my little shows a lot.
I love that.
Honestly, I love my parents a lot, weird, but I think about that a lot. I'm like, you guys accidentally fostered like way too much confidence in forcing people to watch my little shows.
So,
but
when did you finally watch? Did you ever finally like watch Dead Silence?
I did.
Like, how old were you?
I watched it in college.
Oh wow! So there was a big gap between.
Yes.
Oh my god!
And it's great.
Terry doesn't agree with me on this one, but
it's a lot of fun.
I love this movie. I saw this in high school.
Amazing.
I talked about these before, but I used to have two best friends in high school, and every Halloween, I think from freshman to senior year, we would have a Halloween movie night where we would like go to someone's house and watch a ton, like rent movies from Blockbuster and just watch them. And Dead Silence was, I think, the first year, because it was 2007. So I think that was the first year of horror movies. And I remember in high school being actually kind of freaked out by it, because dolls scared the shit out of me for a bit.
Dolls are
scary as shit. And I was like super excited to watch it, and I had a really good time. I thought it was gross, and that was also like close to when I think we watched Mirrors the same time, when she rips her mouth open, and I think mouth horror really fucks with me. So I liked, like the tongue in this movie, they get their tongues ripped out when they scream, and so like that kind of imagery always really got under my skin. And it's not so bad now, but rewatching it, I was like, this movie's just fun. Like it's got the James Wan vibes, and it's obviously very early James Wan, so it's not like as good as The Conjuring and Insidious, but you can see like where he's starting to get like the ideas for his scares, and like the way his characters, like his ghosts, always have a very specifically weird, like over exaggerated like makeup to make them not look, you know what I mean? Like their eyes look bigger. They're like very sunken in, but very striking faces and eyes, and like weird
hands. It's kind of like drag in some ways.
Yeah,
like
interesting.
Like taking the human form and like exaggerating it to in this case terrifying degrees. But
yeah, exactly. And so you see that a lot with like Mary Shaw, but also in the puppet design. A lot of those puppets that they have that similar look, and I know that this is a movie that kind of fucked James Wan's career for a bit, but I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I really don't.
Like, here's how I feel about it, having watched it as an adult after being so scared of it as a child. I had a very distinct experience when I watched it. Adult is maybe a stretch, but I was like 19. First of all, they can't all be hits. Honestly, if I had made Saw, I feel like I'd be allowed to make a stinker too. But I was very tickled by watching it, like, cause it was like this thing that scared me so much when I was a kid. Just conceptually, there's no way that the film would have ever lived up to the fear that I felt at just the vague idea of the movie. So when I finally watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is so silly. Like, I had a great time. I had a great time. I was like, it's an evil doll movie with Jason from fucking True Blood and
Ryan Kwanten.
I love Ryan Kwanten.
The Eternal Himbo.
He's so
with that
cute.
Rob
Yeah.
Thomas haircut in this movie.
I
Just
know.
like rocking that.
Himbo. He's not a good actor, though.
I had such a great time. I mentioned that I have this like quality that makes me like when I'm watching like a spooky movie with people who are more sensitive to the spooky and not the startle, that I get this, I have this impulse to just sort of like I just cackle with like a cartoon witch. I just had a great time.
I love that.
And watching that, I was watching it with a friend of mine, my friend Cassandra. I name checked her. I don't know if she'll hear this. Cassandra.
Shout out to Cassandra.
You're great.
Shout out to Cassandra.
But I was watching it with my friend Cassandra, and she was getting very creeped out by it. But every time the dolls were doing creepy shit, I was just like, yeah, yes. And it was very healing for me to finally have the closure of like, oh, this isn't scary. You're not scary.
I love that.
I had a very good time with it though. And I just screamed with like glee at the twist ending. I thought it was the most batshit thing I'd ever seen. Oh my fucking god.
And I actually kind of forgot about the twist ending until I saw it. Like, I knew there was a twist, but I fucking forgot the full range of the
twist
body
is
horror.
My favorite part of the movie. It's so unhinged. It makes no sense, but it's so crazy that I am willing to accept it anyway. Like, I don't care that it doesn't make sense.
So we'll talk about that in a second, because there's actually some really interesting shit about the ending that I want to talk about. But Terry, I want to hear from you about what you think of Dead Silence, because I know that you're not as keen on it as Addison and I are.
Okay, so Addison,
you said Terry, I'm also sorry that you're always the bad guy.
I know. No. That's okay. It's my lot in life. What can I say? Okay, but Addison, you said you were 19 when you saw this, right? Probably.
Yeah.
How old were you, Mary Beth?
14 or 15.
Okay.
I just also should say that I have a real fondness in my heart for movies that make no fucking sense.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Okay, I do too now, but like 2007 Terry was a very different Terry. I was.
He was.
I would
have
been
different Terry.
What was 2000? Oh my god, you're gonna make me do math.
I know that was me earlier.
Yeah. Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't quite sure because it seemed like. Okay, I was 26. I was 26 at the time when it came out, and. I went into it after seeing Saw, loving Saw, absolutely loving Saw. And so I was like, ooh, the Saw dudes are making a new movie. I'm really excited to see this. And so 26-year-old Terry was very disappointed that it was not as like edgelordy and like, gruesome as Saw was. It was more of a traditional kind of classical 1930s or Hammer style type horror movie, or was trying to be.
Yeah.
Now, rewatching it for the first time since I saw it in the movie theaters in 2007, so I'm now 40, my problem is the exact opposite. I don't think it's as ridiculous enough as it wants to be. I feel like watching this movie, particularly after watching it so closely since watching *Malignant*.
Oh God! It's so fast. That's a really interesting trajectory. Watching those two so close together.
I was gonna say, I love *Malignant*.
Oh, I do too.
I love *Malignant*. Talking about a movie that made me shriek with glee.
Yes.
I was shrieking with delight.
Fucking cackling like an animal, like a hyena. It's incredible time.
I watched it with my roommate for my birthday. I made breakfast for dinner and I got super high and I watched *Malignant*, and it was one of my best
happy
birthday
fucking birthday. That's
celebrations.
incredible.
It was very good. Just shrieking with glee.
So
anyway,
yeah. So I feel like Dead Silence wants to be *Malignant*.
You know what? I would like to see the Dead Silence that James Wan would make now.
I would also like to see the Dead Silence that Leigh Whannell would write now.
Yeah,
who I also adore.
Because so they wrote the movie together, and I feel like *Malignant*. In my brain, it's almost like a response to Dead Silence, like in a subconscious way of like, look, I know how to do like crazy shit, and
yeah,
there was definitely a lot of like studio interference with the movie. And I mean, you can talk about Leigh Whannell, Terry, because then I can talk about the end. We can talk about the ending later, because there's a really different ending that they wrote that's like much more heartbreaking and actually makes the ending make sense, rather than like what it is now. And it just is like the hell, and then you're just
it just made me just shriek.
Yeah,
and
you're
laugh.
like, the fuck is this?
I don't know if Leigh Whannell feels the same way now. I think he probably does. But back in 2011, he wrote a blog post that is no longer on the internet, but is archived. And we will include the archive to the show notes because it is quite a read.
Interesting.
The title of it is Dead Silence, The Hellish Experience of Making a Bad Horror Film. He
Damn.
hates this movie. And not only that, but making this movie disillusioned him. He was talking about how he saw Hollywood as sort of this mythical dream factory, and he was desperate enough to get through the locked gates. And he was kind of like us film nerds, you know, who scoured all the behind the scenes, like tell-alls, the books, the interviews. He was obsessed, and he really wanted to get in there and make his studio film. And he said that he starts talking about caviar problems, about how like he would read about things and he'd be like, oh, that's not a real problem. You're making movies. And so it happened to him here where the same stuff that he would call a caviar problem, and he says it nearly killed him. That is a direct quote from his blog post. And he said that, you know, you listen to people because that's what you do. You're new in this place. You're green. You listen to the people. You're hoping that they're going to tell you the right advice. And everyone said you got to capitalize on Saw's Sundance debut because it debuted tremendously at Sundance, right? And you needed to lock down a pick in case it flops when it gets released. And so they said, you got to come up with an idea. And he had no ideas. So he's like talking about how he wanted to revive Hammer horror films, that aesthetic. And like he had all these visions and these images of fogs hugging the ground, crawling across the moors beneath a bloated moon. This is quotes as well. We saw hundreds of dolls lined up in a madman's collection, giving you that chill from a really good Twilight Zone episode. We heard wolves howling and crows screeching and piano keys tinkling. All great stuff, but not in any way a story. And then, so he finally comes up with a story, and then the execs want the rules. They don't understand why Mary Shaw's doing this. They want to know the rules behind everything. They want to know all of that kind of stuff. And he's like, audiences don't care. They just want to be scared. But execs are like, but tell me, why is she doing this? And what is happening? And what are the rules behind this haunting? And then they hired a script doctor. They changed a bunch of stuff. It was filming was hellish for James. He said, I'm not going to speak for James. Maybe he'll tell you his side of the story, but he did say it was hellish. Then Universal did no promotion for it. And Lee Winnell left disillusioned with Hollywood.
Oh, Lee.
That makes me so sad.
And he's made some really good shit.
Yeah, I'm glad to see
absolute bangers.
I'm glad, and like for both him and Juan, I'm glad that this didn't like totally turn them off of filmmaking, because then of course we have the Conjuring films.
Oh my god, yeah,
Insidious.
I don't want to live in a world where I didn't get Invisible Man and Malignant. Oh my god.
So I mean, thank God for they came back, because I know that this was like kind of a very big like roadblock for them. And like, look, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So the film opens with, like, you know, a cute couple, Ryan Quanten and his wife, just, like, being cute and in love.
Love him.
And they have good chemistry.
They did have good chemistry. I liked her a lot.
I know, it's sad that we don't get to see much of her.
Right?
No, she's fridged immediately.
I know. So...
R.I.P. to that poor woman.
Know. And she's the best haircut. I love when they have, like, women with short...
She had that Mia Farrow haircut.
Yes, not enough women have those kinds of haircuts in horror movies and movies in general. Let women have short hair.
She had that full Rosemary's Baby haircut.
But, so there's a knock on the door, and there's a huge box, and inside of that box is Billy the doll, who is, like, on the poster, has, like, the iconic creepy look.
He is so scary.
It's, like, the quintessential ventriloquist doll look. Like, it's kind of like the...
He looks like fucking Slappy.
Yeah.
I didn't stand a chance with ventriloquist dummies. They still freak me out between Slappy and that shit. No.
And so they're like, you know, they make the typical jokes like, this is fucking weird ass doll. Like, this is so weird. But like they laugh about it. And so he goes to pick up their Chinese food. And
which I do have a 2021 realization on this. None of this would have happened today because they would have Uber Eated it.
It's true. They would have had it delivered.
And he would not have been leaving. Uber Eats could have saved her life.
If he just Postmates it, his wife wouldn't be dead.
That should be a DoorDash commercial or something. Don't let your wife fall victim to a horror movie. Order DoorDash today.
Yep. If only he'd ordered DoorDash, his wife wouldn't be dead.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. Can you imagine that commercial?
What's Ryan Quanten up to? It can't be much. I say that with so much love in my heart.
He's very pretty.
He is very pretty.
I love him. I think he's genuinely a delight, but he hasn't done much since True Blood.
He's not the best actor. I'm sorry. He's not very
but he's
good.
very likable.
Yeah. He's like a little puppy dog. It's cute.
He's very likable. He what he lacks in like acting stuff, he makes up for in like being extremely charismatic, and like enjoyable to watch.
Yes, definitely. That's why he was good in True Blood, because he played like a kind of
And he was hot.
Oh, he's perfect in True Blood.
In True Blood. But, while he's gone, his wife is, like, talking to the doll and, like, joking around. And then it comes to life this is one of my favorite shots of the movie, when she goes into the room and it's under the sheet. And she pulls it up and he, like, grabs her in. And she crawls out, opens her mouth, all this blood pours out. And then he grabs her leg and pulls her back. And when Ryan Quanten gets home, he sees his wife on the bed with her tongue just ripped the fuck out of her mouth.
That shot is amazing.
It's so good.
Kudos for killing a pregnant woman in a movie, though.
Yes,
like,
she
you
is.
Don't see that.
True.
She is, in fact, pregnant. You see, that's the typical looking in the mirror and looking at her stomach. Everyone's favorite.
And it's a plot point, too.
It is a plot point.
Fuckery with, like, sheets and, like being under blankets and sheets in horror movies. Oh, you know what? James Wan loves a sheet scare, because we get a good one in The Conjuring, too.
He also loves old women as scary things. Insidious.
He loves old women, haunted dolls, and sheet scares.
Because, like, I was thinking about this. I was like, this woman reminds me of the creepy old woman in the Insidious movies, which also kind of reminds me of
love her.
Bathsheba from The Conjuring, which reminds me of The Nun.
By the way, this is a wild thing to share, but, like, I'm in the midst of researching and writing for another podcast that's covering, like, the true stories behind, like, based on a true story horror movies. And I've been up to my ears in research on The Conjuring.
Ooh, God, good luck.
Bathsheba Shepherd was a real woman who didn't do any shit.
Yes, I was like, I wrote something about The Conjuring and looked that up, and she was real, but, like,
didn't do anything.
Like, not in the way that The Conjuring. Also, the Warrens are swindlers.
No, she was just a regular woman who, like, died of a stroke in her 80s. Like, she was, like, normal.
Yeah, the Warrens. Oh, you know this if researching them, how?
Oh, literally, one of my favorite, like, subheaders of an article I'm reading for the script I'm writing is them talking about the Perron family talking about the haunting, and one of the subheaders of this article is just the Perron family says the Warrens made things worse. Like, they came and did their little exorcism thing, and then they left, and then the ghost activity got worse.
Yep, sounds about right. Incredible.
Really, really quick sidebar. I'm so sorry to derail, but Lorraine Warren came to my college one time.
What?
When The Conjuring 2 came out, I didn't get to see her, but she came and did, like, a talk at my college, my first college, because I transferred. When The Conjuring 2 came out, she came and did, like, a talk at my school. She was obviously really old.
Oh my God, but she still wears she still wore those crazy ass collars.
She did. I didn't see her at all. I was doing other shit. I wasn't a horror movie baby at that point, or I would have gone just for the sheer novelty. I think, actually, funnily enough, I think I stayed home and I stayed in and watched, like, Scream or something, because it was, like, just the beginning of my horror movie journey. But yeah, she did come and talk at my school, and I think about that a lot. I'm like, she was just there.
That's so weird. Incredible.
I'm like, why were you there?
Yeah, what?
Anyway.
So after the wife dies, he goes back home to Raven's Bluff, which is, like, the most, like, fucking incredible gothic horror movie name for a town.
Great name.
Great. And, like...
This is where you see, like, his style, like James Wan's style.
Yes.
Like, before that, too, with the shot where it zooms in on Ryan Quanten's eye and then opens up on another scene and then zooms in on his eye again, and it shows the passage of time that way. But then here, when they pull up to Raven's Raven's Fall? Is that what it's called?
It's the Raven's Bluff.
Raven's Bluff. They pull up to Raven's Bluff, and the camera focuses on the sign, "Welcome to Raven's Bluff." Ugh. And then all of a sudden, he's driving through the town on the sign. And it's just such a... You can see James Wan. It's like, that's James Wan on a plate, just right there.
It's so good.
I just love his style so much.
And it's like the creepiest horror movie town of all time. It's always, like, cloudy. There's fog everywhere. Like, you're talking with Leigh Whannell's, like, talking about, like, the fog. And it's just, like, dark and dank and, like, not a place you want to go. Like, it does...
The theater is flooded.
Yes. The atmosphere of the movie is one of the things that I think it's one of the needles it really does actually thread really well. The atmosphere is great.
100%.
It's so ooky spooky.
It is ooky spooky. It's like, it's big, just like traditional haunted house vibes, I think. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of that, which was great.
I love to see a protagonist driving into a foggy ass town.
It's just,
I do.
It's like, oh, I can't wait. Some bad shit's about to go down, and I cannot fucking wait to see it happen.
It gives me such just, yes, exactly. Just
walking through a cemetery.
that Silent Hill.
Yeah, Silent Hill.
Salem's Lot. Kind of.
Everything is bad and they're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah.
But I forgot to talk about the best character of the movie, Donnie Wahlberg's horrendous cop who is always shaving his face.
Which, by the way, Lee Winnell says that was not in his script. So they added the shaving.
I believe that.
I believe that. Was Donnie Wahlberg in
I believe
Saw?
that.
He was in Saw 2.
Saw 2, that's right. He's the guy. Okay, he's in Saw 2.
I believe that because Lee Winnell writes things that make sense.
I was like, what is going on here? He has a perennial 5 o'clock shadow, and he is just constantly shaving, and it's not doing anything.
It's incredible.
And his death,
Nope.
when he dies at the end, the camera's focusing on his buzzing shaver.
Ridiculous fucking visual visual goof that makes no sense.
It doesn't. I'm like, what does this mean?
And he looks annoyed to be in the movie, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, he does not look thrilled to be included. He does not feel like he wants to be there. And he he just is supposed to be oh, you probably murdered your wife. If he wasn't in the movie, I hate to say this, but he doesn't add
anything to the
and
movie.
The drama between the two of them, their stakes don't even feel that high, even though it's
so
he could
forced.
be arrested. It's this forced drama that it doesn't bring anything to the plot, and
I never believe that he's actually in danger of going to jail.
right? Yeah.
It's not. I'm not to keep pulling from the better things that these filmmakers later went on to make, but it's not giving me the Invisible Man stress of wrongful conviction. That's not, yeah.
No, absolutely not for me too. The other thing though is that when he gets to the town, and I really realize this now, is that the way that they use color, or the almost complete lack thereof, this movie is desaturated to the point that it might as well be black and white, and except for
it's a very gray movie.
Yeah,
and it was I'm watching some I was like, wait, did it turn into a black and white film? And then there's pops of color, especially the reds, which is favorite color for them to use, but it kind of reminds me of a nostalgic look of they're trying to recreate the nostalgia of seeing 1960s Hammer horror film, or even further the Universal, because this is a Universal movie, and in some ways Mary Shaw feels like she could be a Universal monster, especially with the script that originally was written that Mary Beth
I love
found.
Mary Shaw. I want them to do more with her.
right. I'd love a Mary Shaw franchise. I think that she's.
I love a creepy, ghostly lady. This is not a subgenre, but it is a thing that will guarantee that I love your movie. I love a fucking creepy rhyme.
Oh,
Love a creepy rhyme. Always love a creepy rhyme. Every single time.
So we're talking about Mary Shaw, and her villainy, which is incredible. And there's a particular scene that I love when she is in the crawl space at the coroner's house, and it's such I love a Chekhov's crawl space, because his wife, who has dementia, he finds her in there and is like, get out of there. So you're like, okay, so something fucking weird's going to happen in this crawl space. It's in a morgue, basically. Come on now.
Oh, God, yes.
So he thinks his wife is in the crawl space, and he goes in there, and something slams the door shut. And he's the flashlight is looking around, and he shines it on a beam, and you just see a creepy hand with long fingers, and it's just goes away. And I was like,
classic James Wan.
It's so James Wan. It's incredible. It's so fucking creepy, because for me, anything with a flashlight shining and illuminating something in a tiny circle will always get my ass.
Here's the thing, that gets me in the way that I was talking about horror video games getting me, that first person POV feeling.
Yep.
And
that it feels helpless. It feels too real.
It does. And found footage does that a lot too. And that's one of my favorite things in found footage.
It's why found footage works on me so well.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's I know. And this guy is in the know about the Mary Shaw stuff. He's lived in the town forever, reveals the whole thing about her, after she was murdered by all the men in town, Mary Shaw is now her lot in her terrible no rest death is hunting down every offspring of the people who killed her.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, Mary did nothing wrong.
No, and we'll talk more about that because the ending that I want and I wish it happened is really incredible about her. But so she she shows up in the crawl space with like her close up of her. She comes out of the shadow with a creepy ass face, and then he screams because
that's what you do.
You do, and she gets his tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. She gets to nab that tongue.
The Mary Shaw as portrayed in this movie, I'm watching this and I'm like, wait. This story is literally Freddy Krueger. She did something bad. Townsfolk killed her. Now she's coming back to kill the children of the townsfolk. It's literally Freddy Krueger.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, a lot of vengeful spirits target bloodlines. I don't know if it's just Freddy Krueger that has a...
Plus, she has that gnarly tongue. Right. She has that gnarly tongue, and that's what happens in the Freddy Krueger movie.
Then where are her knife fingers?
Well, she has long ones, though.
That's true, she does. God, you're right. This is the same.
James Wan was ripping off Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, God, this is the new Halloween is a Texas Chainsaw ripoff.
That whole discourse.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to.
Silence comes over the crowd, and we're just like, ugh, God.
Okay, speaking of which, the silence in this movie, I don't understand.
Ripping out the tongues.
It's in the title.
Talk when you have no tongue. No.
But...
it's in the title. It's called Dead Silence.
But why does everything, like, slow to a crawling get super quiet?
Don't ask questions.
Oh my God, I'm turning to the exec that were asking about the rules. I am so sorry.
Forgot about that part.
I'm sorry, Lee Winnell.
And I was like, oh yeah, why does that happen?
Because
it's freaky.
Because it's magic. Creepy magic. I don't know.
Because ghost, cause no tongue.
Puppets, I don't fucking know. Like, whatever.
Dolls are quiet. I'm just saying shit.
Just saying shit.
Because I rule of creepy.
Why not add it in for
the
fun?
rule of creepy.
It feels like such a thing that execs would add. Like, we gotta have a weird moment to indicate the ghost is near. You know what I mean? Like,
that is also a very big, like, personal thing. Like, I'll nitpick when something isn't good enough, like it is bad enough that I require, if this makes sense, like if something's funny enough or scary enough or engaging enough, I will not nitpick. So like if something scares me, I'll just be like, it's okay, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, that's kind of what Lee Winnell said. It was like, the audience is not going to care as long as you make them terrified.
Yeah. It's exactly how I feel about, or something like Malignant, where I'm like, I don't care that it makes no sense, it's fun as fuck.
This is not a movie I want to make sense. This does not need to make sense. Yeah. Fuck that. Who cares? Like you said. And I think that's why I keep forgetting about the slowing down of time. Like, I forgot about it again until you mentioned it, Terry, because it's so weird, but, like, did not bother me in the slightest. It was just kind of left my brain. I also feel
like that was a weird, like, mid-2000s stylistic thing that just popped up in movies.
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
Because they kind of did that shit with, like, those Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movies. Oh my God, they kind of did versions of that. About those movies. With, like I feel like it was just, like, a weird, like, a trend.
Yeah. Like, in the early 2000s, they did, like, the whole, like, really quick editing of people, like, moving their heads really quickly, and, like, it looks like it's sped up. Yeah.
I feel like that was just I feel like trends kind of cycle through with style, and I think that honestly, we're trying to assign meaning and figure out something that was probably just like someone went, hey, this is cool and we can do it.
So, okay, you're talking about Mary Shaw, and I want to read or like kind of go through an article that I edited this article for Film Cred when I worked there, but Jamie Alvey wrote this incredible piece about Dead Silence and about the alternate ending. That's both, there's a deleted alternate ending on the DVD, but also from the screenplay that gives Mary Shaw and Ella Ashen, who is Ryan Quanten's stepmom, who is revealed to be the ultimate villain at the end. But so originally they had more backstory, and it was a super tragic backstory. So So the screenplay was about how Mary Shaw is actually a victim of domestic violence, and her husband, and her dolls were how she was going to was coping with the violence. And then it's revealed that sadly she loses a child due to the abuse. Like, she miscarries and then just no longer able to get pregnant. And so you know, in reaction to that, she kind of spirals and starts viewing her dolls as her kids because she's just so fucked up over what happened with her husband. So the dolls become like her kids. So it's a much more kind of tragic backstory that adds a much more complexity to her character rather than just like the weird old lady who had a bunch of dolls. And so
Mary.
I know. And so actually, and then years later, Mary's husband is the one who cuts out her tongue as punishment for talking back to him. She survives, but she is no longer able to work as a ventriloquist, so she commits suicide. And her vengeful kind of spirit is born. And it doesn't really so it doesn't really go into much about how that kind of changes the rest of the story, but it's kind of like she's got a much more kind of dark past rather than just like the old.
Mary.
Yeah, I know. So that is just like, I thought that was fascinating. Like that would have been, I think, really fascinating with her as a character, like not just kind of like a caricature of like an old lady ghost. So yeah, I thought that was like a really kind of sad as shit, but like I think really complex version of what this ghost story could have been.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so before I read this about Ella, so Ella okay. Ryan Quanten comes from Raven's Bluff. His dad is very wealthy. He has this giant fucking house. And his dad is shown to be in a wheelchair after having a stroke 2 months ago. And, you know, at the end of the movie, it is revealed that Ella has made him into a human ventriloquist doll, and for the entire movie has been making his mouth move and having his dead body, pushing his dead body around.
And feeding it, because the pipe is hollow, and you see gruel pouring out of the pipe.
Yep, she's got like a pipe, and she's moving it around. Oh, it's amazing.
It is absolutely incredible. Like, it is so fucking ridiculous. And this is like the last like
it is unfucking hinged.
Last like 4 minutes of this movie too. Like it is like it's so unhinged and there's nothing. It's just like the very end and then it's like, okay, goodbye.
But it's also
last minute twist.
Yes, but it's also revealed like it was in Saw, the way that it's revealed, where it's like this music and these quick shots of like all of the stuff that's like making sense now. Of it's like it's basically the Saw reveal played again for the end of this movie, which I was like,
hell yeah.
And so it's just like the whole movie, she hasn't really been much of anything. And then at the end, it's like, she did it. And then you're like, but why the fuck? Like, what the fuck was the fucking purpose? So, again, going back to this article, because I just learned a lot from it, and I think it's such a better fucking story.
Yeah.
The alternate ending of the movie and the original screenplay kind of go much more into why Ella is the accomplice. And actually, they had a very similar story, parallel stories with the abuse, because Ella also loses a child due to Ryan Quanten's dad, Charles, abusing her. So she also had a similar miscarriage. And so after the loss of her child, she started hearing Mary Shaw's voice. Because their stories were so similar, it's Raven's Bluff, like they, that connection. And then they basically work together to make the perfect doll. And like, that's how they're connected. It's much more kind of like a vengeful woman getting revenge for how men treated them, which is so much more interesting of a story.
And is my shit.
I know this is your shit, and that's my shit too, of like women trying to break cycles of abuse and like hurt the men who hurt them. And like that to me is infinitely more interesting. And I'm so pissed they didn't get to make that movie, because holy shit, I know, right? It's incredible.
And see, that sort of feeds into my original theory that they wanted to make, that kind of classic Universal monster movie, because those monsters in those movies weren't completely the villain. They had pathos. Yes, they had pathos. There was empathy behind them. They were sort of like that sort of noble. There's some kind of noble quality to them that like you can kind of relate to them, and they're played for, kind of that empathetic kind of sad idea. Like yes, they do horrible things, but their story is also one that is usually tragedy. And so I think that kind of originally would have played more into what I think Lee Winnell and James wanted to do here before studio interference kind of fucked it up.
Damn.
And so, listeners, we'll link this in the notes of the podcast because the article is incredible. And then she also has the links to the alternate beginning where they explain Mary Shaw's story, the alternate ending, and a draft of the script. So you can see all of this stuff and read it. But I just, I think, damn, that would have been a good fucking movie.
Yeah, justice for Mary.
Justice for Mary Shaw. Women getting revenge and being villains, but you can understand why. Good for her, cinema.
Also, God, that makes her little scary rhyme more depressing.
Right? I know.
Oh,
yeah.
Not she had no children, only dolls.
Yeah, because her husband's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So,
fuck.
Yeah, I know. It's a downer. But God.
Before we do end, though, I would like to bring up the fucking theater that is flooded.
Wait, the one they rowed the boat to? And I was like, wait, it's in the middle of an island?
Yes! It's so Phantom of the Opera.
The one that Ryan had to... Yes, Phantom of the Opera, exactly. I was waiting for dun, 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 dun. He's like holding up the lantern and stuff. I'm like, this is so Phantom of the Opera. And
sleep, he sang to me. Yeah, just...
The fan. Yeah, that's what I wanted them to break out in song. It was
so good.
It was so Phantom of the Opera, but again, so Universal Monsters, because Phantom of the Opera was a Universal Monster movie. But
it's true.
It's like that whole scene, and then the whole theater itself is so gothic. It's so just this is perfect. This is a perfect set piece. I love the reveal when he goes in there and there's just the wall of dolls. I love that whole part.
Good.
I wanted more of that. And I wanted more of the bonkers reveal with the bar that's also used for feeding.
I really can't get enough of the dead body as a ventriloquist dummy.
That also reminds me of the weird clown doll they have that was in the trailer, and they always they only had a clown doll because that everyone's scared of clowns, and I was like, none of her shit looks like that. None of it is clowns. So I thought that was such a
and probably Saw.
Yeah. What?
And probably Saw.
Oh yeah. It was just funny because I was like, guys, come on now. I know that this is
and none of her shit is clowns.
None of her shit is clowns. But I just thought that was funny because in the trailer,
you can see the Saw doll apparently in one
you
of the...
can.
Really?
That's
cute.
Right. I've seen that before.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard that.
That's very cute.
It's cute. Also, one last thing about the dolls, when they all start coming to life and she's coming out of their faces in that horrible CGI, and Ryan Quanten's character is telling Donnie Wahlberg to shoot all of them. I'm like, there are hundreds of dolls. You do not have enough ammo. Run, motherfuckers.
Yeah. It's so funny.
It was so funny.
Shoot them.
It's like, dudes, there's too many of them. And that's just...
He doesn't know anything.
It's true. There's nothing
he's
up
just
there.
a pretty boy.
Nothing up there.
Not one single
Not
thing.
one thought. But that's okay, because we still love him.
Head empty.
Oh, buddy.
That's so nice.
So should we wrap up and give this our rating out of 5?
We absolutely should.
I'm down.
Okay. Terry, how many gnarly tongues out of 5 do you give Dead Silence?
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Our friendship hangs in the balance. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna have to give it 2.5. I'm sorry, it's not.
That's higher than I thought you were gonna go.
That is higher than I thought,
So-
too.
Well,
Great.
it's 2.5 because I did enjoy this conversation. I think that there's things in here that, talking about this movie again, there's things in here that I really do love. I love the batshit ending. I love the gothic atmosphere. I love the fact that when he goes to bury the Billy, he's going to a cemetery that is, of course, filled with fog. Because, of course, in these kind of movies, that's what has to happen and has to be. And you can't just bury him anywhere. You have to bring him back to his grave because...
I will also say, just a side note, I've always wanted cemeteries to be full of fog. When I watch horror movies, I'm like, oh yeah, they'll always be full of
absolutely.
fog. No,
they have to
just
be.
Fucking grass with rocks in them.
No,
right?
they have to have fog. Otherwise, what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point of this cemetery?
the point
There's
of
no
this?
fog.
Fuck your cemetery.
Oh, God.
Please, no zombies come get me. Jesus, I'm scared now. Plus, I'm on the
knocking
15th
at
floor
your
of my
door.
apartment. So no.
You got a long
You'll
way.
be
You got a long time.
fine.
But
They can't climb that high.
but yeah, so there are moments in here I really think are great. My problem isn't necessarily with either the two of them. It's what the product that we ended up getting, I don't think is either as gnarly as the studio execs probably wanted it to be. It's not like a Saw redo just with a ghost story, which I think is what the execs probably wanted. But it's also not, I don't think it meets that kind of camp feel that a lot of it feels like it's going for. So I feel... I don't feel really anything about this movie. I thought it was kind of boring in spots rewatching it, to be honest. But I honestly, I think part of it's because I really just saw *Malignant*, which is top of my list of movies of this year. Just absolutely loved. So
good.
I think I'm being generous with that half. It's probably more closer to a 2, but I'm going to cut one of those gnarly tongues in half and toss it up to 2.5 for me. What about you? Those tongues though are so gnarly, like just so gross and like,
oh, they're so yucky. I love it.
Like I don't even know what's going on there.
Muscles?
Mary Beth is.
If I could say, the movie could use more goo.
Yes.
It could definitely use more goo. I want a little bit more blood.
I like a wetter movie.
Yeah.
I just do.
Like a wet movie.
I do. I love a goopy. I've been watching a lot of Cronenberg. I love a wet, goopy movie.
I think that's what this was missing. What about you, Mary Beth?
I think I'm gonna have to. Okay, this is gonna be high, but like a 3.5. I know that there are problems, and I know that it doesn't make sense, but I have so much fucking fun watching this stupid movie. And most of those stars come from just how much fun I have with it. So it's like a very personal thing, not necessarily based on like technique. I know that there are mechanics that make zero sense. But goddamn, if some of these scare scenes are just so well constructed. And I think I just love James Wan. And I think watching it now after like being a fan of his and watching his kind of career evolve, watching it now, I actually have a much bigger appreciation for it because you see how his style is growing. Like, you don't see it as much in Saw because it's so different from all the other things that he makes later. Like, there's some influences, but, like, with Dead Silence, like, you're really seeing his sensibilities with ghosts and, like, this kind of scares he becomes known for and his visual style. And I think that it's just really cool to see that evolution, but also see that he's kind of, like, been building on this for so long. And I just don't think it deserves to be as maligned as it is. And I love knowing the context behind it. Obviously, I'm not rating, like, the alternate stuff, but it's just kind of cool to know that context. And I'm so sad that they hated so much and that it was just a fucking nightmare to make. And that's, like, a bummer to me, but I still love this movie. I mean, I think it's great. So 3.5 for me, purely mostly because I love it so much. But Addison, you have the final word. How many gnarled tongues?
Okay. I think similar reasons to yours. 3 for the movie we got, 5 if we'd gotten the movie they wanted.
I know, seriously, God, I can't think about it too hard because then I get really mad.
That's fair. And then honestly, I'm always gonna have like a soft spot for it because it has a place in such like a weird story from my childhood.
Great story.
So good.
And because it offered me this very unique sense of relief watching it as an adult and being like, oh, this is what I was scared of the whole time.
That's awesome, though. I love that story.
Like, this is what I was so scared of.
Yep, that is exactly what you were so scared of.
I'm like, it's just Jason Stackhouse in a Phantom of the Opera boat,
leaning over with his lamp, just like, where do I go?
And again, I love a spooky little rhyme. So
it is a great rhyme.
It's a great rhyme. Ooh. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much, Addison, for joining us to talk about Dead Silence. Where can our listeners...
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
Of course. Where can our listeners find you, and what do you have coming up that you can share?
I'm mostly on Twitter. That's where I'm most active in terms of my digital presence. So that's at Addison_Peacock, ADDISON_ and then Peacock, like the bird. It's just my name. I have, I'm still writing at various places. I've got stuff coming up on Dread. I've got stuff coming up at Fandom. I'm at /film now in doing the features in the film and TV side of it. I am going to be on, there's an upcoming season of the SCP Archives podcast on the Bloody Disgusting Network. And then I actually just wrote my first episode of, there's a horror comedy podcast I just started doing a little bit of writer's room work with called Less is Morgue. And my first episode of that is coming out in the new year.
Oh, exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud of it.
That's an incredible name for the podcast.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great show. More people should listen to it. It's a horror comedy fiction podcast about a ghost and a ghoul that host a podcast together.
Amazing.
I wrote my first episode of it. It's called Live Scream, and it comes out in the new year.
Cool.
So.
And listeners will link to all these projects and stuff in the show notes, so you can check all that stuff out. But listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What's your experience with Dead Silence? Are you a lover or a hater of the film? I feel like there's no in between.
There's not.
Even though, Terry, you were very measured in your assessment of Dead Silence. You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time, I just realized my tongue is blue.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.